Hi and welcome to Simply Ballers 2024-2025 season previews. It's that time of the year where for the next 30 days I'll be releasing a season preview for each team. In each preview there will be a quick season and off-season recap. Then following that we'll be looking at what's in store for each team. We'll be looking at some of the key questions that they have, some of the positives, some of the negatives. It will be digging deeper in some of those areas. And at the end there are some final thoughts with prediction of the standings, their floor, their ceiling, some of the playoff chances, and some other fun predictions. So today we're starting with the Washington Wizards. This team will probably be, again, one of the worst teams in basketball, but it is expected. Their season was also expected to be this kind of bad. After they decided to blow it up last year by trading Bradley Beal, trading for Jordan Poole, I don't think anyone else expected anything else from this team. That's why it's no surprise they went 15-67 and were 14th in the East, trailing only the Detroit Pistons, who had one of the worst seasons as well. And that's why they were pretty bad on both ends of the floor. They were 27th in net rating, 25th on offense, and 29th on defense. There was no talent on either end of the floor to raise the floor of it. And they continue to commit to this path in the offseason. They went younger. They looked to acquire more picks. They just committed to their rebuilding stage. They're literally at the earliest stage of that rebuild, where they're looking to get where they're looking to make swings for high potential players and commit to developing all their young pieces. That's why one of the first main moves that I made in the offseason was trading Deni Avdija to the Portland Trailblazers for Malcolm Brogdon and Bab Carrington. It was kind of a surprising move, especially with Avdija showing improvements on both ends of the floor, making leaps in so many different areas with his efficiency, with his scoring, with his usage, assists, as a jump shooter as well. But he's one of the older players on this team, and based on the package that they got, it makes sense why they also made this move. But then you also consider his contract. Again, that makes a bit of a weird deal, considering he has $55 million for 4 years. That decreases each year. He's going to be making under $12 million in 2028. So they would have had a young player that is still developing on a really good deal. Another questionable decision was losing Tyus Jones for nothing. I'm not sure why he was on this team for that long. He probably should have been traded at the deadline for whatever they could. I didn't see a reason he should have been kept on this team, especially if they weren't. I don't think they wanted to bring him back or had intention of bringing him back. That's just losing player for nothing when they could have got something. I'm sure there was a team that was looking to get a point guard, and they just got nothing for him. Another surprising move was Jonas Valanciunas. That came off as a bit of a surprise, and the actual reaction to it was just okay. It brings them a good starting level big that will probably help them, especially with the guards, with Jordan Poole, Bob Carrington. Guards, especially young ones, they need good big play as well. They need someone that can set good screens, give them something. Especially with the draft decisions, who they selected with Alex Sarr, it makes a lot more sense as well. Give them a bigger body to help Sarr not be the so big on this team. They also acquired Bob Carrington, like I mentioned, with the Deni Avdija trade, and then picked Keyshawn George at 24. So they have brought 3 young players, 2 of them that could have higher potential. So that was their offseason, and it's pretty good considering the expectations and the path they're on. They committed to the rebuild last year, and they doubled down on it. They brought in 3 more rookies with some upside more than others. They have veterans that they could still move for more picks, more young assets. They already have some young talent on this team as well, and they are setting themselves up to be bad again, to have a good draft in 2025, which is more loaded than this one. So what's in store for the Wizards this year? I have 3 main questions. It's, can Poole bounce back, and what will that even look like? How will all of the young players look together? Because there is a bunch of them. There are 3 rookies. There's Jordan Poole. There's Bilal as well. There's going to be a lot of rough stretches. There's going to be a lot of growing pains. So I wonder how all of those touches, all of those developments will look like. And finally, will they move on from the vets? Because they have a bunch of them. They have a bunch of young-ish, not vets, but players that could be moved for other assets, for other picks, for more young talent. So with the big picture stuff, it's most likely going to be the same. They're going to be quite bad, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're literally the worst team by a good margin. But that's the point of this rebuild, where you strip everything to pieces and you'll focus on the young players and focus on developing them, and you will just have to grow and go through those pains. But that doesn't mean there's nothing else to watch for. And that first point with Jordan Poole, I wonder what that will look like, because he did have a real rough stretch this year. There were some pretty expectations for him before the seasons, where some of the people said that he's going to be one of the top scorers. And considering what he was doing with the Warriors, it did make a little bit sense that he was going to have a good year, because he did show a lot, even without Steph, even without Clay, that he was capable of putting the ball in the basket, capable of being a ball handler, and that just went completely the opposite way. He had one of the worst seasons out of anyone, even considering the context of the Wizards, even considering he was put in a completely different role, in a very tough role as well. He looked nothing like the Poole we saw in the Warriors. He looked awful on defense. The decision making on offense, some of the shot selections was just awful. The situation didn't help him at all. But then there was drop-offs in many areas that didn't make sense, even considering the situations. His 2-point percentage was the lowest since 2021. It went from 54% to 55, 52 to 49 this year. His 3-point was 35, 36, 33 to 32% this year. His effective field goal was 49%. A drop off from 55 to 2 years ago. His true shooting percentage was just under 53%. So it was bad everywhere. Again, that was to be expected on the Wizards team. It's going to matter with, like, you're not playing with Steph, you're playing with Kyle Kuzma instead. You're not going to have the same kind of spacing, you're not going to have the same kind of touches, the same kind of usage, the same kind of shots. So it was to be expected, but the drop off from every area, from the shooting, from the things that he was doing well, that was kind of significant. But even considering the efficiency, it still looked different. The shot profile was different. He was always one of the better players at getting shots at the rim, getting to the foul line as well. Here are his free throws per 100 and his free throw rate by year, starting from 2021. It was 5.7, then it went then steady 5.7 again. Then it jumped to 8.0 in 2023, and now it dropped to 4.4. His free throw rate was 0.251, 0.251, 0.325, and it dropped to 0.185. Again, situation matters, but that's a considerable drop where I don't think that should have been that big. He just stopped doing what he was doing well in the Warriors, and not sure what the reason is. It just looked bad. Because even if when you look at the 3 years with the Warriors without Steph, he still averaged 26.4 points on just under 58 true shooting with 31% usage. He averaged 8.2 free throws per 100 in that stretch as well. So there is potential. There is already evidence of him being a primary ball handler, capable of having a 30% usage, being efficient, getting to the rim, getting to the line. It's not something that we'll have to just work in theory, thinking that he could do so. This is a 3-year sample of him doing it, so it's not something that he hasn't shown that he can't do. Outside of his scoring, I do want to see some better decision making. I want to see him pass more. He only averaged 33 passes and only 7.4 potential assists. It's a lot of shots from him. There are so many compilations, so many low lights of him taking questionable shots, questionable step backs with his teammates throwing their hands in the air when they were wide open. That just can't happen. If he's going to be a primary ball handler, he can't have the mentality of a scorer. He needs to be a better passer. And I remember there's a breakdown from the Warriors where they had stretches of him being a ball handler with James Wiseman, and he was showing the flashes as a passer. I do think he has the potential and the flashes of making good passes. He can see the windows. He can make those passes. He just doesn't. I think that's the question of just him choosing not to. That just needs to come down to better decision making instead of actually just developing to make those passes. Finally, what can't happen is the defense, because that was bad. So many times caught ball watching, just didn't have the effort there. That's something that needs to improve right away. Doesn't matter what the context of the team is. Doesn't matter that they're losing. You don't want a player to just coast through the on defense every single time and be this bad. I don't think that is the case with him, because the Warriors did win a championship with him as a key rotation player in 2022. They did have a much better defensive environment for him. They did have Dre, Wiggins, Payton to cover up for him. But you still can't be a defensive liability and be a high rotation player and win. He was better defensively then. So it is also effort that he just needs to show that he can do consistently. But the most important part of the season, it's looking at how all of the young players will look. They have Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George, Bob Carrington, Bilal Coulibaly, Jordan Poole, Corey Kispert, even Kyle Kuzma, part of the young-ish core as well. It's all about their development. It will be interesting to see how all of those players fit, because there are multiple positions, players in different roles, different positions, all have different skill sets, different strengths, different weaknesses. It will likely not be great. There will likely be so many growing pains, plenty of players hitting their rookie wall. It will be players stepping out of their comfort zone, playing out of the role. So it will be all about how each of those players mesh together. Some of the senior of The Athletic mentioned that Alex Sarr has the highest upside of anyone in the draft, with his positional size and elite defender, which will help build better habits with the Wizards, because they were one of the worst teams defensively. With Carrington, he mentioned he's a guard that does a lot of things, and he can do them at a high level with his shot making and seeing the court well. And I think that will matter a lot with Jordan Poole. It will take some of the burden of him being a primary ball handler. He won't have to have that kind of usage, kind of the ball dominance. We know what Poole can do alongside some other players. He can play off ball. We've seen him do that in that system with Clay, with Dre and Curry. So bringing in more additional help should elevate both of the players. Finally, I want to see what happens with the older players. I don't think they should keep all of them. They have Kyle Kuzma, Corey Kispert, Richaun Holmes, Malcolm Brogdon, and Marvin Bagley. Brogdon will probably be the one that's traded most likely, although he's still a good, solid guard, still solid point guard that will help Poole and Bob Carrington as well. Again, you need some kind of mix of vets on a young team to help develop the habits, put them in better positions. You don't want to have young players just struggling all the time, and bringing in vets, especially at the guard play, will help everyone. Bringing in Brogdon will definitely help Alex Sarr as well, because the bigs will also need their guards setting them up, and Brogdon is a good smart point guard to do. Then there's Kuzma. Not sure what his role is going to be, what his game's going to look like, because in the last 2 seasons he's been averaging almost 19 shots per game. In the last 2 seasons he's scoring 23 points per 75 possessions on 19.4 shots, and he's also only adding 4.2 assists. He's a high volume shot chucker, not efficient either, not a great scorer. His true shooting was 54%. So not sure what the role is going to be there. Again, you're bringing in more rookies and more young players. Is it wise to have an older player to dominate the ball so much with his scoring, where he's taking almost 20 shots per game? That's 20 shots is a lot. Not many players are doing that. Don't even see what the goal is for Kuzma on this team. He's not going to be developing as a guy on this team, and he's also not going to be set up in ways that maximizes him in a way he was on the Lakers. He does things well that would fit on better teams. He shot 77% at the rim with 25% of his shots there. He shot 40% from the corner in these last 2 seasons, which is needed because his shots beyond the corners is quite inconsistent and bad. He's a rough 3-point shooter outside of the corners. But again, those are 2 skills that would help on better teams. He's not put in those positions with Poole and all the young players on this team. And when you combine with his age, him being 28, and with the kind of contract he's on where it's a bargain, he definitely should be considered to be moved at the deadline. I don't see a pro argument for him to stay on this team beyond the deadline. This is similar to Corey Kispert. He's now he shot 42% from 3 in these 2 seasons. He fits that low volume, high efficiency scorer archetype where, combined with his shooting, he's also shooting 64% from 2. You're not getting much anything else. He's shooting well from 3. He's going inside well as well. That's again very high, very impactful, very needed on good teams. It's also probably needed on this team as well. They need spacing. Bad teams also need spacing. Jordan Poole needs to have space to get to the rim. So does Alex Sarr. So having Kispert will help with that. But he's also 25, going into his 4th year. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's moved in the same way as they did with any other year. If there are some offers that are too good to pass on, I wouldn't be surprised if he's moved. If not, then I don't know what you do. Do you just keep him and hope someone will come up with a better offer in the offseason? Then there's Marvin Bagley. He's going into his 7th year. He's been on 3 teams. I'm not sure what's going to happen with him. Not sure even if he's a rotation player this month either. But that's what the season will be for the Wizards. It's looking to see what they have. It's prioritizing the young players, hoping Poole bounces back, and seeing what they could get for the other vets to make this rebuild easier and better. So some predictions. I see this team as a 15 to 20 wins team. Their floor is bottom of the league. Their ceiling, which the best case scenario is bottom of the league, but maybe not last, and their rookies look good. That's it. Don't see them in any range within a play-in. The best case scenario for this team is Poole bounces back, Bob Carrington looks solid, and Alex Sarr is the player with the most upside in this draft. Some other prediction is I do believe Poole will have a bounce back season that looks similar to what he did with the Warriors. I think he's going to look good this year. A whole year of just being bad is probably enough to make a player just change his ways, change the approach, and hopefully he does have a bounce back year. Also believe Kuzma will finally get moved. They will finally pull the trigger and just move on from him. He's 2 years from being 30. There is no need for him on this team, especially where you can move him for more assets. I'm sure you can get another vet for him. There are other vets that will contribute on this team that you wouldn't need to keep without getting any assets in return. But honestly, I don't expect anything from this Wizards team. They're literally at the earliest stage of the rebuild, where they don't even know what their young players are. This is going to be one of those seasons where, unless you're a diehard Wizards fan, there's not much else to follow on this team or even watch.